Hey there, Ron Sullivan, your online hitting consultant, coming to you straight from my wife's bedroom. Very professional, right? But anyways, look, a lot of people are experiencing with youth players a lot of flares the opposite way, right? And probably not the outside pitch that we're worried about. It's whenever we get an inside pitch or middle of the plate where we're still hitting flares to right. That's something to definitely be concerned about. And I'm going to give you some ideas of three different ways that something could go wrong, and I think there's probably more variables than that. But I'm going to give you the first one is the outside pitch, right? Typically, the reason why your player will hit a flare on an outside pitch, particularly with young players, right, is that whenever one of the things you notice on video when you watch a kid hitting an outside pitch, they naturally kind of unload the barrel away from them automatically, right? But whenever they see an outside pitch, they really start to get the barrel out and away from them as they go to that ball, right? And so there's a little bit more of a dump of the barrel towards the catcher than we want. And so as the bat starts to go forward, obviously the barrel is laid off a little bit too much. And so that outside pitch, if you're getting flares from that, I would just challenge the player to take a little bit more of a direct approach to that ball, right? To not lay the barrel down so much, and then literally have to take their hands into that direction a little bit more, and you're probably going to stay on top of that ball a little bit better. Now, if it's a player that has good mechanics, and so in other words, no elbow drag, no bat drag, and they're still hitting flares, chances are, I've heard people say, or they're staying inside of the ball too much. I don't think I've ever seen a player stay inside of the ball too much. In other words, they're going to literally keep their hands going this way and the ball is going to cut across the bat or something like that. Never on purpose. Kids will always unload the barrel. It's just very natural as the barrel starts getting out front. No matter how far they take their hands in this direction, the barrel is going to come around. And so I don't think that staying inside of the ball in that sense is an issue. Where I think kids with good mechanics get in trouble is if they're being told to get their hands in front of their body. So in other words, if they're working inside, right, and then they start to try to pull their hands inside of their body, this is when you get the sideways contact, right, that will squirt the ball because the barrel is facing in that direction as the player starts to get their hands in front of their body, right? So what you could work on with that player is helping them feel their hands continuing to unload in the direction of the ball, right, instead of wanting to pull their hands in front of their body, right? Now, if that ball's about to hit them in the hip and they've decided to swing at it, you probably better have your hands in there. But I see this as an abuse of a lot of players where they really try to get their hands in front of them on an inner half pitch, and really it's about location. So if I can hit that ball, I can still have my hands to the side of my body here and hit an inside pitch, but I'm going to hit it further out front, right, and take care of business that way. So that's a player with maybe good mechanics that's still hitting balls that way. Now, generally with youth players, it's because of their mechanics that create this. So I know it's very worrisome when you have an inner half pitch, a middle pitch, and you're still getting these balls squirting off the opposite way. Well, chances are that your player is, well, for instance, if I had a hammer in my hand, I was holding with my top hand, and I was just going to take this hammer and drive a nail, boom, I would just go directly to it. I wouldn't have to, what should I do with my back arm? I would just hammer, right? Well, when youth players are hitting a baseball, right, they're typically not thinking about going directly to where they need to go. They're going to lay the bat down, right, which is caused by a couple of things that I'll talk about here in just a second. But they're going to lay the bat down so they can get behind the ball, right? So this idea of swinging on plane is important, but what kids do is they abuse this idea naturally. You don't have to talk to a player about getting on plane. What they normally do is cross the plane behind them and get underneath the plane, okay? And so what these players need to have and what they need to build in is a little bit better of an idea of how to unload the swing, right? And you're going to see a better action all around. But what typically happens with players with that flare on inner half pitches is that their back elbow begins to lead. And when this back elbow begins to lead, if you look at my barrel, this is behind me, right? That barrel is laid off. Now, I know a lot of people are against the idea of attacking from on top. What I try to do with my youth players, particularly players that are learning the game, they're not quite Josh Donaldson yet, it's really important that they understand that as we're unloading the swing, that the barrel at some point at this turn is still under my control, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of youth players will dump the barrel back here. And so as we're making our move to the inside, right, my barrel is still on top of my hands. And now as we work towards contact, that barrel is going to start getting on plane. But what most youth players do is dump, which causes this. This is the dumper, this elbow and this arm. Dump the bat, and then as they begin to work inside, which they never make it inside really, right? But as they work inside, the barrel is laid off, and so the barrel stays laid off. Unless, I guess, by some chance the kid's going to tomahawk it, they're always going to be underneath the ball. So this is why on inner half pitch, right, the barrel is laid off, and they're going to dump one off to oppo, right? So that's one of the things you can look for. So what else? Look, I don't have a drill that says, we don't have time to talk about how to get rid of that, but I'll give you the basic premise is you've got to train your players. They're unloading their swing. One of the good ideas to have here is that the elbow stays behind the hands as they're dropping in, and that as we drop down into the slot, when I get to the slot, in other words, whenever the elbow comes down to this position, not buried in my ribs, but as it comes down here, right, that this knob is going to lead the turn of my rotation, that it's not going to be my elbow. Once you see this position on video, right, when they get to the slot, that player's in trouble because they're going to create some sort of drag issue. Okay, and so that's what you could work on, is just getting the player to that slot, right, and having the knob working in front as we work to the inside, right? Extremely important, because now what we do is we set up the top hand arm to naturally be of use to us, right, instead of getting in the way and creating resistance in our swing. Again, this is why you see a lot of players spinning their body like this, because the top hand's not free to move. Okay, and so look up online. There's lots of drills, talk about bat drag, or you can check out our distance learning platform, which is in the description down below. Be happy to see some of your players' videos and see what we can do to help you out. Okay, hey, Ron Sullivan, your online hitting consultant. Thanks.